here for CAA football. The Blitz as we continue.
And he may go the distance. Terrence
You're going to put yourself in a situation to win a lot of football games.
Our 11 Teams in 11 Days series continues today with the Richmond Spiders. I'm Bobby Broyles along with Scott Meyer once again. And Scott, we look at this Richmond Spiders team. It wasn't too long ago they won that national title in 2008. A lot of transition. They've been injury plagued, but they start this year fresh and with a new head coach.
Yeah, no question. Rocco comes in from Liberty where he was very successful. Obviously never got to the playoffs out of the Big South, but always a champion in the Big South. Was able to win some big games nationally. I think what Rocco brings to the Richmond Spiders now is possibly some consistency in the coaching staff. Keeping some of the guys that were there before under Latrell Scott and Wayne Lindenberg last year in the interim basis. And then he brings over some guys from his Liberty staff as well, trying to preach the discipline part of the game as well as remaining consistent. He's got a lot of holes to fill and a lot of things to do to get that team back to what it was when it won the national championship. But I think Rocco's the right guy for that job.
Well, we talked to head coach Rocco, and he told us his expectations for the Spiders in his first season at the helm.
I think on the front end, I'm wanting to return to our winning ways. I think that is the first challenge that is before us right now. Get back to our winning ways, kind of change the culture again to where the expectations within the program are more consistent with winning. I asked our players the very first time I stood in front of them, do you guys want to win? It sounds like a real simple yes and no question. They certainly said yes, and then as we went through the next couple of weeks, I had to remind them that if you want to win, well then you're not doing the things you need to do to win, and putting a little backbone into that.
Rocco on changing the culture at Richmond, but when you take a look at this team, Scott, there's some big holes to fill, especially on the offensive side, as they will be looking for a new signal caller to replace Aaron Corp and a wide receiver to fill the void of Trey Gray.
Yeah, no question. Those two guys, big name guys in terms of CAA football. But if you listen to Coach Rocco and talk to him about those holes that he has to fill, he wants to spread it out a little bit. Obviously, John Lobb is going to be the quarterback going in. Got a transfer from the University of Virginia and Michael Strauss, so look for that kind of to be a maybe go-between. Maybe later in the season you see a little bit more of Strauss dependent upon how Lobb performs. But then you also look at names on the outside, the guys that were there before. Ben Edwards jumps into the mind. And then spreading the ball around in the backfield. Kendall Gaskins is your workhorse back. But they had guys that carried the ball last year, and they can take that away from the quarterback responsibility and not be so dependent on filling the void of Aaron Corp. Spread the ball on the outside, not be so dependent upon all of those catches, all of those yards that Trey Gray had on the outside, and utilize the tight end position too. That Richmond has been known to have some pretty good tight ends in the past, especially going back as far as that national championship year. So get those guys involved as well in the passing game.
Once again, head coach Rocco on what to expect from the offense in 2012.
This year we're going to be a little more liberal with the ball, if you will, in terms of who all we're going to try to get the ball to. In the passing game, it'll be by committee with our wide receivers. We're going to certainly make a more conscious effort to get the ball to our tight ends. And then the same thing in the backfield at the tailback position. This will be tailback by committee. We've got a number of guys that I think are very capable. From week to week, the stat line might change a little bit, but I think we have enough different weapons there to kind of offset the production that Corp had a year ago and that Trey had a year ago.
A tough task for Coach Rocco and the Spiders coming into his first season as head coach. But Scott, what can we expect from the Spiders in 2012?
Well, we just hope for consistency. I think that's one thing that Coach Rocco is going to preach. The changing of the guard and the coaching staff has always been one. He kept Wayne Lindenberg. I think that helps in terms of the cohesiveness of the recruiting battles that the Spiders were already in. that can fortify those kind of things as well. I think they just need to be consistent. It's one thing. They have Cooper Taylor on their defense. I think that's one name that you look at on the defensive side of the ball that they can point to, lean on. He's a top-notch player in this league. He's an NFL prospect, according to some people. So that's a dynamic individual. If he can stay healthy, that he can kind of lead that defense. Obviously, we talked about the offense, but let's just look for consistency with Richmond this year. I think what Danny Rocco wants to do is kind of build that 2 to 3 year plan, get them back on the level that they were when they won that national championship.
The Spiders kick off their season Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, September the 1st, as they make the short trip to Charlottesville to take on the Virginia Cavaliers. That game will be televised live on the ACC Regional Sports Network. The Villanova Wildcats are next up on our 11 Teams in 11 Days series. Scott and I will return on Monday as we preview Andy Talley's team and what we can expect from the Wildcats in 2012. For Scott Meyer, I'm Bobby Broyles, and you are watching CAA Football, The Blitz.